Hello, my name is Danny Brown. I'm the pretend painter. Today I'm here with Glenda Bitner. Glenda's been a friend of mine for 20 some odd years. Having her on the show, we just did a ballerina painting. We did it with a knife. I think it looks pretty cool.
I do too.
I think it turned out pretty well.
It was a lot of fun.
You said, so part of the show is that when we paint, we end up selling those or auctioning those off to charity. Who do you want that painting to go to?
To the House of Healing.
The House of Healing. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the House of Healing?
I can. Okay. Here's the logo. So House of Healing, we are Equine Assisted Learning Center. Okay. So we work with kids in middle school and high school. And a lot of these kids have had trauma or at-risk behaviors. And usually at-risk behaviors come from trauma. But we partner with horses to work with the kids. We work on building confidence, building awareness of themselves and others. During the day, we have contracts with a couple of the schools that actually bring their kids out. The school counselor comes with them and brings them out, which is nice to have them in case there is a meltdown of some sort. We are equipped for that, but it is nice to have the school counselor there. And then in the evening, the parents are the ones that drop the kids off for a 2-hour class and then come back and pick them up. But our evening classes, same thing. I've got some homeschoolers, but part of the reason they're homeschooled is because they have had trauma and there's concerns about how they would do in public schools. So,
excuse me, what's the time period? Like, how long do you normally see a child? Is it a semester? Is it, how long does it go?
So if it's the school, it's up to them.
Okay.
Like I've got one group that I've had them now repeatedly for a couple of years now. They're getting ready. A couple of them are graduating, going to the high school. So I'll end up with some new kids. The evening classes, they can come as long as they want. We're from 13 to 18 or as long as you're in school. So I have some kids, and a lot of the school kids do end up coming to our evening classes if the school won't bring them back. They'll talk to mom and dad, and then they'll just join our evening class. But they can stay with us until they graduate high school.
So what's your goal? You have a troubled teen come, say it's his first day. What's your goal? Like, what's the process with this kid? What are you trying to achieve?
We work really hard at providing a safe environment. Where they get voice and choice. We're not going to pry. It depends on how much information the parents give us on paperwork. Sometimes I don't know too much about their story. I know they're there for a reason. I just don't know what. So our goal is depending on each kid. It's, do they need, for my kids that are quiet and I can tell they have no voice. I had a young lady that came in. She maybe weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. And it was right after COVID. So she had to wear a mask. And she had this big old toboggan. And she had really curly, beautiful hair. So you saw this little slit for eyes. And she came in, didn't make eye contact with anybody, sat in the chair and did this. And just hunkered down like she wanted to disappear into the wall. And we went around the room and, we usually ask a few opening questions like, what's your name? What's your horse experience? Are you afraid of them? And tell us your favorite snack. Because we always have water and snacks. We make sure basic needs are being met. Are we hydrated? Where's our blood regulation going? And she, mumbled something. And I looked at the counselor and she's like, it's da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay. But within 15 minutes of having her out with the horses, she started opening up and kind of talking.
Okay.
And by the week 10, because usually when the school programs, it's a 10-week program. By week 10, she came in. She's making eye contact. Her shoulders are back. Hair is done just beautifully. She's got this huge smile on her face. She's like, hi, Miss Glenda. And I was like, I got a job interview.
Awesome.
Like, oh my gosh. And the school counselor came to us later and she said, I wasn't going to bring her because I didn't think she'd be successful here. And I'm like, those are the ones I want.
Challenge accepted, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So the horses really instill a lot of confidence in them because, asking this 1,100-pound animal to do something and they do, they're like, oh, they just did that for me. It's like, yeah, they did.
I didn't grow up around horses. So what do you mean by asking them to do something?
So if we're asking them to walk on or to stop or to back up, or, because we use verbal and hand cues with all of them. They do get riding in as well. So about 60% of what we do is on the ground and 40% in the saddle.
Okay.
We play a game. There is a concentrated game and a focus and a word focus that day. So, for example, we just finished up a game called Circle of Cones.
Okay.
And there was instructions at each cone of something they needed to ask the horse to do. It was their first ride. So it was a good opportunity for them to learn how to stop your horse, how to turn your horse to the left, how to go to the right, that kind of thing. And our focus word was gentleness today because we do need them to have gentle hands because those reins are attached to their face. But how does that translate to life? Is the question. And so
not to overreact. And is that where you're going
exactly.
with that? Okay.
It's like, so, if the horse that's 1,100 pounds can be gentle with you, how can you be gentle with others? If you're being gentle, doesn't mean you're weak. Because some of the kids are like, well, you got to buff up and all that. It's like, no, you don't. You can be gentle and strong. Those horses are strong. They don't have to partner with you if they don't want to. So, but them getting that confidence is it just helps. And then usually we'll have, we'll tell them some of the backstory of some of the horses. And some of our horses have had some traumatic pasts that we do know about. And so when you share that, a lot of times you'll see an instant connection. And we're like, oh, okay.
There might be something there. Okay.
Yeah, this horse was neglected. He came in 200 pounds underweight. His ribs were showing. His hip bones were showing. It was bad. And they're like, oh,
His parents didn't care for him.
His parents didn't care for him. And then they're like, okay, but he's got very kind eyes and he's very sweet. And he's very affectionate. And so you can just see them gravitate to that horse. And it's like, okay, that tells me a little bit about where you're at.
So what was it that inspired you to get into this kind of work?
Well, I've always loved horses since I was little. We lived in suburbs, so I didn't get to have that. But after my parents' divorce, my mom had to go back into school full time. And she was dating someone at that time. We were out of state, so not in the state of Oklahoma. And the gentleman that she was dating was taking care of me in the evening because she was a nurse. Okay. And of course, when you're new, it's probably at the fire department or police department, you're going to kind of get the crappy shifts that nobody wants. And so, second and third shift is usually the crappy shift. And so she was working at nights and I was left in his care. He was very dynamic, very likable by everybody in town, ran a entertainment type center. But he was not a nice man after dark. So he would come in my bedroom at night and had molested me and had me do things to him. I didn't tell. I don't recall him ever saying, don't you tell or I'm going to hurt you or hurt your parents. Now, I do know that some manipulators do that. I don't recall him saying that. I do recall him saying one time, well, I'm teaching you because you need to know how to be with a boyfriend. So, I did try, so I was 12 at the time.
Okay.
And 3 out of 5 girls are sexually molested. And they are usually molested by some...
3 out of 5?
3 out of 5.
60%? Wow.
And for boys, it's usually 1 out of 5. We think that's actually higher. They just don't report it because being a boy, there's that extra ego of, they don't want to talk about that happened to them. And it's not their fault. It is not their fault. And it's getting that across to the kids that what happened to you as a kid is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything to cause this. You were left in the care of an adult that obviously had very unhealthy boundaries, if not mentally sick in some way. So I grew up as a pretty angry teenager. So when we moved out, I did try to tell my mom in the car. Of course, it was the day we're moving, but I'm a kid and I don't know timing.
Yeah.
But I told her just a little bit about something that an event that had happened where he had touched my breast instead of I had hit my funny bone. Because you know how bad that hurts. It just shoots that pain right up. And I was crying. And he's like, come here. And he was trying to console me. Well, then he did that. I got up and left and was angry. And so I told her about that. And her response was, he's not your dad. You shouldn't have been sitting in his lap.
Or turned it into your fault.
Yeah. So that shut me down. And I didn't talk about it again. Which that also happens to the majority of kids when they do tell, they're not believed. We actually do a really good training at our church now about when you have a predator, they do a really good job of also grooming the gatekeeper, the adult.
The other person, yeah.
Exactly. So he did a very good job of fooling my mom about who he was. And he did a great job of fooling the community because they would have never thought this really great, kind guy who's generous and does all this stuff for the community would do something like that. And I was old enough to have some sort of knowledge of that. I don't know why, but it was like, they're not going to believe me. So I just never talked about it. But then I grew up ticked. I was one ticked off, confused teenager. I feel like if I had, especially with my love of horses, I feel like if there had been a program like this, that eventually I probably would have opened up to a trusted adult. Because like I said, we work really hard on training all of our volunteers. We work a lot on TBRI, which is trust-based relational intervention. And it's just, that's part of us creating a safe environment for these kids to talk. That's why we have water and we have snacks. And we're always like checking in. How are we today? We're giving them voice and choice. You don't want to ride? Okay. All right. So what do you want to do today? So we're going to give them voice and choice. We're trying to empower them. And if somebody had done that for me, I think I may have opened up and not waited until I was 30-something.
Is that when you finally told someone? Or shared with someone that...
Yeah, I was a hot mess. I got into drugs, did all kinds of stupid stuff, got into, relationships that I had no business getting into. And finally, after my divorce... not to Steve, obviously, my previous husband. Life was going down the tubes. Everything was going wrong. All my friendships were going wrong. My dating relationships were all going wrong. Work wasn't going, it was just everything. And I finally was like, the only common denominator about what's going on in my life is me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering. So I started doing regular counseling. Loved him. He was a great counselor. And we kind of started talking about the sexual abuse. And I was like, I finally had to tell him one day, I said, I dearly love you as a person, but I just cannot do this work with you because you're a man. And he's like, oh, totally get that. Because I was afraid to tell him. Because a lot of times victims also become people pleasers. And so I was afraid to tell him. And he was like, no, totally understand. I've got a person. Here's her name. And this is what she focuses in, is this. I met with her 5 minutes sitting down in front of her. She asked me a couple of very pointed questions. And I was like, how did you know that? Like, are you living in the back of my brain? You even gave words to stuff I didn't know how to articulate. And I know I was in the right place. Mm-hmm. So I went into counseling in a group environment with them. And it was amazing. Mm-hmm.
Was that here in Oklahoma City?
Yeah. So when you can be with a group of people that have been through what you've been through, like Alcoholics Anonymous, they all have a same common problem. Mm-hmm. Yes, they've probably had some trauma that led them to alcoholism, but we all kind of know what that is about, know? And so when you've had people that have been sexually molested, especially as children, we get it. Mm-hmm. Even, for example, one day with the horses, we had one, we don't have him anymore. He left with his owner, but he was a bit pushy personality. The horse. Okay. Yeah. He was a bit pushy. He was very opinionated and a little pushy. And this young lady was walking him and he kept bumping her in the back. And I'm like, what is he doing? And he just kept pushing her. And I'm like, she's walking at a good pace.
Yeah, she's not doing
anything wrong.
Yeah.
And she starts to cry. And so I'm like, oh, okay, we've got a moment here. And so asked one of the volunteers, I said, hey, can you take this horse? So they took the horse aside and I pull her off and I'm like, so he was pushing you around a lot. Yes. And I'm like, okay. Does that happen a lot in real life? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, have you been abused? Yes. And it's the first time she'd talked about it.
Really?
And she opened up but it was the horse that triggered it. Mm-hmm. So even though I was annoyed with him for his behavior, at the same time it was like, oh, you actually helped.
You're
Good job.
You're playing on a different level.
Pest.
Yeah.
And bad manners. But so there's a lot of stuff that comes up, and also with sexual abuse victims, they have PTSD. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a military guy here recently, and he was like, "What? PTSD?" I'm like, "It's a traumatic event."
Yeah.
It's no different than...
whether it's one time or multiple times.
Exactly. It's a traumatic event. And if it's a traumatic event, just like a car crash, I mean, you can then have anxiety about getting in the car after that. Hmm. If you have a traumatic event, it is possible for you to have PTSD after that. Hmm. And so that was part of when I went into counseling originally, because I was starting to have some of those episodes of PTSD and I didn't know what they were. Hmm. So it was confusing to me. And then when I started explaining it, they were like, oh, well, that's okay. You're having PTSD. So now you're kind of getting flooded with some memories. Mm-hmm. So, because there was some stuff that was coming back that I had not remembered. Our little brains, when we're young, mm-hmm. Do a lot to protect us. Mm-hmm. Or they try to. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes they'll shut down some of those memories. And they're like, no, we're going to put that way in the back of the filing cabinet.
And in your therapy, did they bring that back out? Is that how is that what?
Some of those things did come back out through talk therapy. Some of the things I'm still unclear. It's hazy. Mm-hmm. If I think about it, it's kind of hazy. I'm not really clear. So again, I think that's just my brain trying to protect myself. I also did some EDMR, which is another type of counseling.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with that one.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So, good. I don't have to explain it because it's hard to explain. But I have done a couple of the EDMRs, and that was amazing and really helped clear the box on a few things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went through that one after my traumas. We did EMDR therapy, and it was literally one session. Went in broken, came out normal. That was kind of a strange one just because it was one event, and it wasn't tied to alcoholism. It wasn't tied to abuse. It was one event, so it was very quick, and I was accepting of it because I went in like I was a car going to an auto mechanic. It was like, I'm here, fix me,
Fix it, please.
which I know some people aren't as open to it or as receptive, and sometimes they have more traumas, and so it's not just a one time fix. It's not a Band-Aid.
No.
It was a Band-Aid for me. It worked. It was amazing.
No, it worked for me.
Yeah.
It really did. I mean, I did 2 sessions,
Yeah.
and of the 2 major events, and that really did help. It helped a lot.
Did at the end of the EMDR, for mine, he told me to think of a girl, and then at the end of it to say the words "let go." And when I did, it was like it felt like something was inside me, like being ripped out of me. Did you have any involuntary feelings like that?
Yeah, I had already done quite a bit of work by the time I got to my EDMR, but it was a release. That's about the only way I know how to describe.
Okay.
Is that just releasing it into the universe, and it's like, this is not mine. This was your junk, and it's not mine. It affected me, but this is not my junk. And I was able just to release it, which was amazing.
Oh yeah. For the guest or for the audience, if you haven't heard of EMDR before, it's an eye movement recognition. I don't remember the D.
And sometimes tapping.
And tapping. Okay. But it's a way that you can kind of relive an event when it gets stored basically in your short-term memory, and then you do the EMDR, and that process helps you move it to a long-term memory. And where people get stuck on the trauma side is it gets stuck on that short-term memory, and it just feels like it happened yesterday, whatever it is. And that EMDR is very good at making it happen. It doesn't get rid of the thing. Whatever I went to did therapy for, I can still vividly remember the whole thing, but it is in the past. It's not like I came home from the shift that day.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that worked and how.
And it was different than talk therapy because, like, I didn't have to go into all of the details.
Correct.
It was just her asking me questions of, can you see said event? It's her asking the questions, but I was not required to share those details, and I was actually prompted not to, unless it was just too much. Then I could say, I can't do this today.
Yeah, time out or whatever.
Yeah.
For the horses, I think you said this off air, talking about how whenever someone approaches a horse, how it can adjust even the heart rate. You remember that story?
Yeah.
Do you mind telling that again?
Yeah. So horses have a real massive energy around them. And they've done studies where they connected a heart monitor to the horse and to the person. And the horse can pick up the heart rate of somebody like within 4, 5, 6 feet. Some horses can even do 10 feet away. And you haven't even touched them yet. And then if a person is brushing the horse, within about 5 minutes, the heart rates start going in sync together, which is just beautiful. And they have an ability to just bring you here and be present and be in the moment. They just, because 90% of their communication is body language. So a lot of that is, it's touch, it's facial expression, it's how they move, it's all of that. And it's just, I don't know, they've just got a real calming, beautiful way about them. It's kind of like when I take Maggie, my dog. She's a certified therapy dog through Halo. And we go to the airport. We also started over here at the Oklahoma Blood Institute that just opened up around the corner here from you.
Okay.
She'll be over there on Mondays in Yukon. So even the presence of a dog, it just breaks that barrier with people because they're like, oh, look at the dog. You see the little kid come out and this big 6 foot, ginormous dude. And he's like, oh, look at the puppy.
Yeah.
And so it almost kind of break that up in all of us. And so the horses do the same thing. They kind of break that up. And so we've got 8 bigs. We've got 4 minis.
Okay.
So we use a lot of the minis for a lot of the groundwork and stuff. And they bring their own little, and they've all got different personalities. And so they all bring their own little sassiness to the day.
Yeah. Do you find that there'll be one horse that, like, a made up name, Sarah, comes to your facility and, like, it's just not a match with these, but then pretty soon you bring your dog in or whatever, and like Sarah matches to a different animal, different. Do you see that quite often?
We do see that. I do have some kids that they want so badly a certain horse to be their heart horse.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen.
And not going to happen. And a lot of time, again, it's that internal energy that the kids are bringing in. Mm-hmm. There are days that I've seen, like the kids have had good experiences with all the horses, and then let's say it's week 5, and I'm just getting a really weird response from the horses with this particular kid that day. Mm-hmm. So then that's when I know that there's usually something going on that day.
In the present.
Yeah. And so it can be like, hey, like, how's your day? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Again, we give voice and choice. They don't have to talk to us. But most of the time, they do want someone to talk to. And we've worked really hard to build that trust. And we give them an opportunity to journal as well. Mm-hmm. And we keep those journals to the side for the school kids so they don't have to remember to bring them back and forth. Mm-hmm. And assure them, we do not read these. They go right back into this pile right over here. Mm-hmm. And we never look at them. So a lot of times they will end up talking to us about what's happening at home or at school or whatever. Like today it was about one of the other kids at school. So I had to sit down and have a little talk with both of them about kindness.
Mm-hmm. That's school wasn't that long ago, and I remember some of those conversations and days. And at that time, you don't see life outside of your group of friends. I mean, you don't know what's going on out in the city you live in, let alone the world. But that small group of friends, that was so important.
It was.
And I can only imagine it being more if I was going through something, that group would be more important. Especially the being accepted by them would be important.
It is. And what you and I didn't have is, although you're not as old as I am, the cell phones.
Yeah. Oh,
the cell phones just bring this up to a whole new level of not being nice. Mm-hmm. Because they'll just say things that they normally would not say to their face. Although I had, again, like today, my 2 that were having a disagreement, she bluntly said, I don't like him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, ow, that's hurtful. But I don't. Okay, but can we rephrase that maybe a different way? So, like, what's happening here? Yeah. So we just kind of talked through that, and she felt like he had been mean to her and had done some things. And he admitted that, yeah, I probably have been not always very kind and tends to tease. This generation seems to be very sarcastic, which is one of our rules at House of Healing is no hurts. So no sarcasm, because it's usually at someone's expense, mm-hmm. and nobody likes that. Mm-hmm. So if we hear it, we shut it down.
And there's always, to every joke, there's some level of truth too.
Exactly.
And you don't know what they're going through.
Exactly. And so we don't need to add that. And so he actually pulled me over to the side. He said, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah. And he said, she seems to have lost her joy. And I said, well, have you helped her with that joy by calling her names and doing some things? And he says, no. And I said, it can wear a person down, hon. And then he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so just, it's okay. I get it. Just do better. Do better.
That's the answer to all of it.
Yeah.
Do better.
Just do better. Now you know. Do better.
So easy. Now we're done.
Problem solved. Let's go. We're done.
Just do better. So you mentioned you do the stuff with Halo. Those are for canines. You have one. You had another one that you recently retired.
Yes.
What aspect do the dogs bring that the horses don't?
Well, if I could, I'd bring the horses to the airport. They're not potty trained, so that's and hauling them would be an issue. I don't think they'd let me walk through the airport with a horse.
Let's try.
I'd love to try, especially with one of my minis. So the dogs, again, if they've got that really good disposition, and really a therapy dog, just to clarify, a therapy dog is trained for everyone.
Okay.
To be able to pet a therapy dog. A service dog is trained for one person, one purpose, and we should never try to offer to pet those dogs or distract them from their job. And then we have emotional support animals. That is very loose. I'm hoping that they'll put a little more regulation, honestly, my opinion, because you are not required to have any special training for that animal, whatever that animal is, a snake or a dog or a pelican. I mean, it's, so I feel like there needs to be a little bit more regulation over there on that side. But the therapy dog, so the therapy dog doesn't have as many rights as a service dog, but if we've been invited, there's a lot of places that we can go. Okay. To provide comfort. So at the airport, I get questioned about that one a lot. They're like, why the airport?
Flight anxiety.
Flight anxiety. You also have people that are trying to get to the bedside of a loved one and or going to a funeral. We've had several of those people. And for some reason, Maggie, man, she finds them and she just takes me to them. I'm like, oh, okay. She's just got that intuition. Again, animals are a little bit more intuitive. And she just reads that, oh, they're sad. We need to go talk to them. Like, okay. And then with kids, just kind of helping mom and dad have a minute of something else to do instead of them trying to wrangle the kids.
Yeah. Well, even the parents, they're leaving their parents. They may not. You don't know what their health in the future. I mean, it might be the last time they see their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
So they may not express it as openly, but they're going to be hurting or sad or.
Exactly. And then obviously we hit the staff because the staff, especially baggage claim, I feel for those folks because, sometimes I've heard some of the customers, most of the customers have been nice that I've heard, but I've heard a few and I was like, oh, okay. Hey, you need some love. Come here.
We didn't see much grace in that today.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not their fault. And then, at the Blood Institute, because sometimes people are a little bit nervous about giving blood and that kind of thing. We also go to high schools and colleges for finals. Because the kids are stressed out and they miss their family pets and they're like, oh my gosh, I needed this today. Yeah. They just need to be able to pet. And dogs, like horses, they can just look at you with that unconditional eyes of, I love you. Yeah. And you're like, thank you.
And they're all named Fluffy for some reason.
Exactly. So I guess my whole journey in life, because of what I have been through, and I know there's been lots of other people that have been through what I have and more. But I've looked at what I gravitate to as far as how I want to do ministry, because to me it is ministry, and it's healing. So, what we do at House of Healing is we're trying to provide tools for healing. We're also faith-based. And so even though I can't use the word God or Jesus with the schools during the day, there's still lots of biblical wisdom that we can share. Like be quick to listen, slow to anger, and slow to speak. Those are things that we can share with them. And if they can start grasping some of that, and if they see that it's safe, so we have had conversations later with kids that are like, I just always feel so peaceful out here. Like, what is it about you guys? And so a lot of times that does open up the door to be able to share. Well, I got a lot of my healing through Jesus. Do you know him? Can I talk to you about my Jesus? And a lot of them will be open to that. And they'll be like, okay, I like that. And so my work that I do, like with my dog, Maggie, same thing. When we have run across some of those people that are trying to get to the bedside of a loved one, we've had the opportunity to be able to pray with them and just, hear them out, hear their heart, and just say, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I know this is hard. And just try and say a prayer of comfort over them. So to me, it is a ministry, but it's all towards everything about my life right now is about healing.
I agree with you. I've definitely put a lot of my life towards healing and towards just the helping others. Because you never know who's struggling. You never know. You absolutely don't know their story.
Absolutely.
And you see the shirts or whatever, like just be kind. And that's all you have to do. It's not that hard.
It is.
But it's also being there if someone's opening up to you to be the right person to listen to them. Because that's a hard thing too, is to listen and not just give advice and not try and shove it down their throat. Like, you got to let them tell their story. And that's something I've been working on. I'm trying to get better at take time, pause, let them say what they're saying, don't interrupt. And it's amazing. And I feel like part of it's come back towards me. Which, like I'll be telling someone about the podcast or whatever, and then pretty soon they're praying for me. It's like, whoa, I didn't think our conversation was going there, but I love it. So I'd say that I've been actually actively involved in prayer more at the fire station in the last year to 2 years, and probably the combined 10 years before that. So it's,
wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't like how it happened, all the trauma that got me to where I talk about mental health and talk about all that. But now being able to go in the day room or the bedroom or whatever and hanging out with some guys and having a conversation about faith, and it's like, let's make this the normal instead of the abnormal. And that's where a lot of this podcast comes from too, is I want people to be able to share their story. Because when I was hurting, other people were hurting too. And knowing that my words helped encourage them to get help, that meant a lot to me. And I'm hoping that your words will reach somebody today.
I hope so. So it's kind of like when you asked me about what is the objective with the kids at House of Healing. I mean, the objective is healing, but how we get there is going to be really different depending on the kid. Like you said, there's no formula. It's just being present and listening. And when you said listening, that is so key. It's listening. And I do struggle with it. I have to remind myself, this is not your time to give advice. Shut up.
Yeah.
Because whenever my husband and I have had several miscarriages, but I remember at one point I was like, I'm just going to write a book about everything you shouldn't say to people when they're hurting.
What would you put?
Oh, don't tell me about God's plan.
Okay.
Ooh. He won't give you more than you can handle. The God's plan one really ticked me off. I was like, really? So what is the plan? You've got the 911? Really? Okay. So go ahead and share. I had to walk away because, man, my mouth was about to go there.
Yeah. How many miscarriages have you had?
I've had 3.
3.
So, but it's just what I've learned through like the TBRI training and that thing, any kind of hurt, pain, or trauma, the best thing we can do is be there. Fewer words are always best.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it's trauma, because the brain can't really process a lot of words. They just can't. So too many words is overwhelming. But also, like the best thing you can say is, wow, that's really hard. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. We don't have to fix it.
Yeah.
We just have to be present.
Mm-hmm. And being a safe person to talk to, knowing that it's staying with you, and that it's not gonna, you're not gonna share it with people that you have to have that trust too.
Yes, confidentiality, huge. I'm all about the confidentiality. We remind the kids of that, as well as the volunteers of, what is said here stays here. Mm-hmm. Unless, and I tell the kids this, unless you have threatened to hurt yourself or someone else, we're not reporting to your mom and dad what's being said out here. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do threaten to hurt yourself or someone else, now I'm going to have to intervene.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens.
I will go with you. I'm not just going to pass you off. Mm-hmm. I'll stay with you through that process.
That's awesome.
So,
as I can imagine that it's going to be a harder outcome if they say something like that. But then to be able to walk them through it is a whole lot better than here's St. Anthony's, good luck, and just drop them off. When I worked on the ambulance, anytime I'd have that patient, whether they threatened suicide or even attempted or whatever, typically that was a St. Anthony's patient. Yeah. And I would always ask him, I was like, do you want to walk in? And just give them that. The hospitals didn't like it. I don't know if my boss would have liked it either. But I always thought it gave them more dignity when it was just they're at the end of their rope. They're not gonna. I mean, obviously they can outrun me, but I don't think that would let them do that. But it would be just being able to walk into the hospital versus sitting on a cot. Just, in my opinion, gave them more humanity, and maybe that was the little bit of grace that they needed that day. On one of our text messages, you said something about a breakfast coming up.
Oh, yeah. So it's this Saturday.
Okay.
We're trying something new. So this is going to be for veterans and their families. Mm-hmm. There is another program that's starting off at another place for just veterans. So if they need information, they can contact me about that as well. But what we're doing is for veterans and their families. And we're going to have a big breakfast, home cooked breakfast that morning. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to spend some time with the animals.
Okay.
It's not going to be like one of our normal classes where we have a game and we have a word of the day and a scripture. It's not going to be quite all that. We don't want to be overwhelming on the first attempt to do this. If it's a success, we hope to do this monthly.
Okay.
But it's just another way. So with our kids, our focus is youth. But if we don't help parents, then we're sending kids back right into the same environment again. Mm-hmm. And so our hope, just like we have monthly parent meetings, and that's been happening all this week. And I had a parent come from the school Tuesday who pretty much the last hour of our talking cried the entire time. Mm-hmm. There's just there's so much pain and hurt going on. And she just needed someone to hear and see her. Mm-hmm. And acknowledge, I see that you're really doing the best you can. Mm-hmm. And they're really trying. And giving them some tools. And so if we can help the parents, because we communicate with them on a weekly basis through email, this is what the game was, this is what the word was, here are some questions that maybe you guys can sit at the dining room table and talk about. Because we're trying to get them to talk and start connecting if that's an issue in their home. So same with the veterans. We know that if they've been, especially if they've been at war, they have trauma. And so if we can bring them all together for a fun experience and make some new fun memories, then when we do have to go through the hard things, they have those fun memories to rely back on. And so we'll just see where that goes.
I like it. So for the House of Healing, how are they funded?
So we are nonprofit. We don't take any, and because we are faith-based, we don't take any funds from the government.
Okay.
And they won't give it to us anyway because we're faith-based.
Yeah.
So we are funded by several churches. We do a lot of grant writing. We do several fundraisers. Like we'll have a fundraiser in May. I don't have the date on that yet, but we'll have a fundraiser in May where we're going to have a barbecue. You can come out, have barbecue, and visit the horses, and it's just a fun day to hang out and support us and eat some good food. And then we also have personal donors. We're always open and hopeful for monthly donors because that helps us to kind of know what's coming in.
Yeah. For these horses that eat a lot of food and pay.
Yes. Yeah. They are not a cheap investment.
Yeah.
And our horses are very well taken care of. I mean, our trimmer comes every 5 weeks. We do keep them barefoot. There's really no point to put shoes on our horses. They're in a pasture or they're in the arena. Okay. And then, the vet comes out once a month. We have a massage / chiropractor who comes out and works on our horses usually about 2 times a year. It's important for us to keep their health and their well-being as best we can so that we're keeping the kids safe. Safe horses, healthy horses provide.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's important that we do make that investment in the horses and keeping them healthy and happy.
So so you said private donors, you said monthly donors, you said the event in May. Is there like an auction with that? Is there?
We will probably have, in the past, we have had a silent auction items.
Okay.
That goes with that. And then in October, which we may be switching that to September, I don't know yet, is our other big fundraiser. We've done it at Chicken Pickle the last couple of years. They've been really great. They have a big room and they can set it up. All their tables and chairs are movable. We just tell them how many people are coming. They cater it.
Okay.
But we don't have to pay for the space. We just have to pay for the food. So we have done, for the last 2 years, we've been over there. And so there's a silent auction and a live auction at that one with an auctioneer.
Okay.
So, and that one's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. There'll be a painting in it next year.
Oh, awesome. Yay.
So
I will say one last thing. If your viewers have had trauma of any kind, please talk about it. It's the chains of shame that kept me silent for years. And those chains, I mean, I really feel like they were weighted chains. I mean, the weight of that. And I made poor decisions because I felt unworthy and unloved and ashamed of myself because I thought some of that was my fault, which I, of course, learned it's not.
Yeah.
But, I don't carry that weight. We're not intended to carry that weight. And to be able to talk about it is so freeing. And then you find out you're not by yourself. There's others that have walked the path.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to help. I want to help. That's why I do what I do. And so I would just say to your viewers, talk to somebody. Don't stay silent. It'll kill you.
Yeah. I know that I talk about my trauma, not to bring back the trauma.
Correct.
It's to open a door for someone else. Because otherwise if I didn't talk to him, I wouldn't know that was an issue. And I'm sure that similar situation for you. And
Yeah.
hopefully if someone was to reach out, what's your best resource if it was someone that was molested or sexually assaulted in some way? Who would you recommend them talk to?
Okay, I've got to be careful how I answer that one. So I am not a licensed counselor, so let me just preface that, okay? I am not a licensed counselor. I am a TBRI practitioner, so that means I've had some training in trauma. I think just talking to anybody, I'm not going to say anybody, let me rephrase that. You want to be very careful about who you pick, because you don't want to get the wrong response. Like I got the wrong response from my mom, and it shut me down for years. So you want to pick someone, and it's like you say, that's why we share our story, so that they know, hey, we're safe to talk to. I get it. And I'm not going to say something stupid, hopefully.
Yeah. Or I might not be the one to talk to, but I can get you
But I can get you to the people. So I would say, if they need to, especially if it's sexual molestation or anything like that, and you haven't had anybody to talk to, call me.
Okay.
I'll talk to anybody about that. Or anybody that is safe. I would just say, just make sure that they're a safe person. You can feel that out by asking a few questions. And kind of feel for how they respond to things to know if they're a safe person. If you're a young person, school counselor.
And this will be auctioned off to at a later time for House of Healing. There will also be a way to do a straight donation.
Yes.
If you don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Okay.
And as always, only love. Love you guys. Bye.